Ever wonder why two neighboring giants, India and China, started on similar paths but ended up in very different places economically? Stay tuned as we unravel the fascinating journey of their economic evolution. Throughout the second half of the 20th century, both nations shifted their focus from traditional agricultural economies to becoming burgeoning industrial powerhouses. However, the routes they took were shaped by their unique political and social landscape, leading to distinctly different outcomes. Join us as we explore how these differences have defined their economic destinies. In China, the push towards industrialization started seriously in the late 1970s. The government, recognizing the need for a workforce capable of supporting an industrial economy, focused intensely on improving education. By raising the level of literacy and numeracy, China prepared its workers for the transition from the fields to the factories, a move that would eventually power the nation's economic explosion. This focus on education laid a strong foundation for the workforce that would support China's new manufacturing industries, which became vital to its rapid economic expansion. At the same time, India faced significant hurdles in improving education across its vast population. Despite efforts, the quality and reach of education in India did not match China's, leading to a workforce less prepared for industrial work. This difference in workforce readiness would later become apparent in the industrial capabilities developed by each country. The 1980s marked a turning point for China under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, who introduced sweeping economic reform. China opened its markets to private and foreign investors, a move that catalyzed a flood of foreign factories and capital into the country through the 1990s. These reforms transformed China into a global manufacturing leader, attracting both investment and expertise from around the world. India began similar economic liberalization much later, with significant reforms only introduced in the 1990s. While these changes helped speed up India's economic growth, they were neither as comprehensive nor as timely as China's effort. Moreover, India's journey was often slowed by bureaucratic challenges and uneven implementation across different regions, which hindered the development of a strong manufacturing sector. China adopted what is known as the investment-led growth model, which has already proven successful in developed economies like the United States, Germany, and Japan. This model is characterized by heavy investment in infrastructure and manufacturing capabilities, supported by both government spending and strategic deployment of state-controlled banking resources. This approach not only built the physical infrastructure necessary for large-scale manufacturing, but also established a robust financial system to sustain long-term economic growth. In India, there are attempts to channel investments into infrastructure and industrial development, with the state maintaining a strong control over the banking sector. However, these funds often ended up with well-connected industrialists who failed to use them productively, leading to ineffective asset use and banking sector plagued by non-performing assets. This misallocation had a lasting impact on the effectiveness of India's economic strategies compared to China's more successful outcome. Foreign direct investment, FDI, played a pivotal role in China's economic strategy. By creating an attractive environment for foreign businesses, China not only accessed crucial capital, but also integrated global technology and managerial practices into its industries. Local government policies were aligned to offer incentives and streamline procedures for foreign investors, greatly enhancing China's appeal as a prime investment destination. Contrastingly, India struggled to attract significant FDI. Despite the central government's efforts to promote India as an ideal investment location, local governments often could not provide the necessary support. Tangled up in India's complex regulatory environment and slow bureaucratic procedures, this failure to effectively implement policies at the local level was a key reason India could not match China in attracting foreign investment. Another stark contrast lies in the effectiveness of local governance in both countries. In China, local government officials are motivated by central government directives that link their career progression to economic achievements in their jurisdiction. This system encouraged local officials to prioritize economic development, including infrastructure and industrial growth. In India, however, local governance suffered from inefficiencies and misalignment with national economic objectives. The decentralized nature of governance, while supportive of democratic principles, resulted in a patchwork of economic priorities and varied levels of execution capability across the country. The economic paths of China and India over the last few decades showcase how different approaches to education, policy reforms, investment strategies, and governance have shaped their respective economic destinies. While China has surged ahead, becoming a global manufacturing powerhouse, India, despite its progress, has faced ongoing challenges in fully realizing its economic potential. To grasp why India's local government struggled to replicate China's rapid economic success, we can look to the insights of Professor Kapoor, who points out three key reasons for this challenge. The first reason is quite simple. India's local governments are severely understaffed, especially compared to China, which significantly boosted the capacity of its local governments during its rapid growth phase. A visual comparison shows a stark contrast in the structure of government employment between India, China, and the United States. In China and the U.S., the majority of government employees serve at the local level, facilitating direct impact on the ground. Conversely, in India, most government employees are concentrated at the state and federal levels, leaving local governments thinly staffed. This imbalance severely hampers the ability of local governments in India to make significant investments or assist foreign investors as effectively as their Chinese counterparts. One might think that simply increasing funding to allow local governments to hire more staff could solve the problem. However, it turns out that the issue is more complex. Despite high unemployment rates, many local government positions in India remain unfilled. Moreover, some of the poorest local governments fail to utilize all the funds allocated to them by the central government. Delving deeper, Kapoor's second explanation ties India's struggle to its infamous caste system, which, despite being officially abolished, still influences political and social dynamics significantly. The caste system impacts the functionality of local governments in several ways. Recognizing the persistent influence of the caste at the local level, the founders of modern India intentionally limited the powers of local governments. Additionally, even when local governments have sufficient resources, they may lack the incentive to effectively implement central government policies that conflict with entrenched caste interests. For instance, federal programs aimed at improving girls' education often falter locally because of traditional caste and gender norms influence what happens inside classrooms. In extreme cases, vacancies in government jobs go unfilled if the only candidates belong to higher castes. As seen in Bihar under Governor Lalu Prasad Yadav, where thousands of engineering positions remain vacant, exacerbating local government inefficiencies. The third major challenge identified by Kapoor is India's status as a precocious democracy. This term suggests that India adopted democratic governance before it had the necessary institutional foundations firmly in place. In such democracies, the provision of public services like education and healthcare can be so deficient that wealthier citizens opt out of public systems in favor of private alternatives, subsequently showing less willingness to support public funding through taxes. This creates a vicious cycle where underfunded local governments struggle to improve their services, further discouraging public investment and engagement. In precocious democracies, elected officials often prioritize short-term benefits for their specific voter bases, such as subsidies or other benefits for particular caste or religious groups, over investments in universal public services. This focus on immediately visible projects like modern metros over less visible but fundamental important investments such as educational reforms whose benefits are realized over a longer term exacerbates the problem. While these dynamics are present in all democracies to some extent, They are particularly pronounced in India, where the incentives for local government do not align with the broad economic growth strategies. This misalignment, compounded by the lack of local government capacity and pervasive influence of the caste system, makes it extremely difficult for India to emulate China's model of economic development. If we look back at India's journey since the 1980s, it's clear that although the country didn't experience a rapid, explosive growth like China, there have been significant improvements. Education has gotten better, and the country has made major strides in upgrading its infrastructure, particularly in the digital and financial sectors. These advancements are crucial as they position India as an attractive alternative for foreign companies diversifying away from China. In theory, India stands ready to harness a wave of foreign direct investment, FDI. However, the reality of FDI in India has been underwhelming, primarily because of local government's lack of the capacity or the motivation to support foreign firms in navigating India's complex regulations. But there's a new twist in the tale with the election of a more democratic coalition government. Some analysts believe this could foster better cooperation between the national government and local bodies, potentially accelerating reforms. This enhanced cooperation might not set India on a development path identical to China's, but it could mirror the historical trajectory of the United States, a nation that has also dealt with deep divisions and slow, challenging, but ultimately profound and transformative growth. Moreover, recent initiatives show promising signs of capability improvement at the local government level. The successful rollout of programs providing bank accounts, gas connections, and proper sanitation facilities illustrates gradual but positive changes in how local governments operate. These efforts are pivotal because they lay the groundwork for further advancements in areas directly under local jurisdiction, like primary education. With improved local governance, the effects on education could be transformative. Better educational access means that more Indians can tap into the vast array of online resources, potentially unlocking new opportunities for learning and economic advancement. As the quality of primary education improves, it creates a foundation for lifelong learning and skill development, which are critical for personal and national economic success. While we might not witness a China-style rapid transformation in India anytime soon, the seeds of growth and improvement are being sown. India's path might be slower and messier, but it holds the potential for a robust, inclusive, and sustainable development model. This approach could ultimately prove to be more adaptable and resilient, tailored to the unique challenges and strengths of India's diverse and complex social fabric. So while India may not replicate China's dramatic ascent, it is uniquely positioned to carve its own distinct and successful development path. As local governments become more capable and the central government more collaborative, India's slow yet steady progress could lead to a broad and impactful growth that, while slower, might be equally, if not more, successful in the long run. This is why there's a cautious yet genuine optimism about India's potential to grow significantly in the coming decades, charting its own course towards a uniquely Indian success story. Could India's unique development path be a sustainable economic success, or is it too early to tell? What are your thoughts on India's future growth? Share your views and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.